Japan's leading and foremost authorities. Master Sato, 8th Dan. You are going to learn the true art of Jiu-Jitsu, the unique fighting system which is the forerunner of Judo, concentrating on throwing, locking techniques. This tape is of utmost importance because it teaches the fundamentals of this deadly art. Proper respect is shown through bowing, which the master will thoroughly explain. Respect to your opponent. Before a student begins the physical aspects, he must show respect and courtesy to his opponent, and this is with the proper bow. Many Westerners misunderstand the bow and do it incorrectly. I'm going to show you the proper way. Heels together, heel down, left foot first, then the right. The formal seated bow. Hands together, keeping the back straight, head straight as you bow. Side view. Ray, lowering the back and head at the same time, not dropping the head. Standing bow, feet out 45 degrees, heels together, tilt slightly forward, head straight, hands go to the thighs. Watch carefully. This is the proper Japanese bow for all martial arts. Now, Jiu-Jitsu's unique foot movements, guards, which you should follow along as they are being performed. I will begin by demonstrating the frontal stance. When you advance, slide forward, moving the front leg first. Guard up, protect the front of the body, hands open, ready to grab or throw. 60% of the weight is on the rear leg. Front leg is ready to kick. When going forward, the front foot moves first. When going back, the rear foot moves. Now, moving sideways, left to right, right to left. Keep your feet shoulders width apart, turned out 45 degrees. If you move to the left foot moves first. Following with the other foot, same distance apart as if you're standing still. Concentrate your weight evenly on each leg. Keep your back straight, head up, be alert. sidestepping an opponent's attack. Now from a side stance to a frontal. Always eyes on the opponent. 90-degree step. Always moving away from the attack, the weight of the opponent. Now in reverse. Stepping back from the attack. Step back with the left, slide the right foot back with it. Put them together now. Sidestepping the attack. Stepping frontal, 90 degrees. Stepping back away from the force. Move smoothly. Now the unique hand and foot weapons of Jiu-Jitsu. Similar to karate, Jiu-Jitsu does employ striking techniques. It is not all throwing and gripping and locking. We use the edge of the hand, called the shuto. This is an excellent weapon for disabling or stunning your opponent to execute a more complicated throwing technique. Strike with the pad or meat of the hand. Add it to your footwork. Step out of the force. Strike the attacker as he moves in. Using it as a downward strike to the attacker's nose, collarbone, elbow. Striking as you retreat. Usually used to strike across the wrist to break the hand of the opponent. Put your movements together. Follow the master as he moves. Now, the front kick. Bringing the knee up high, snapping into the groin of the attacker or solar plexus. Hizugeri. Knee smash into the groin. Stepping back, front kicking into the groin. From the 4 fundamental maneuvers, going forward, going back, going to the side, going at an angle, all techniques must be applied from each position. Now the application of the shuto. Keep your fingers tightly together, thumb down. There should be a slight tension. Coming around into the temple, the neck, all vital areas. Bridge of the nose. These are the vital areas of the shuto in Jiu-Jitsu. Now, done with power. Now, striking with the seiken or forefist. Make a very tight fist, strike straight into the solar plexus, down into the groin area, with power. Step in, put force behind the strike. Hurricane or back knuckle strike, breaking the rib cage or solar plexus. Into the groin. The back of the hand, back of the fist. Now I will show you the fingertip strike or nukite to the eyes. Keeping the hand open, slapping to the eyes. Now we have the elbow strike, very powerful. This is called empi in Japanese. Used for in-close fighting, usually an attack from the rear. Hand comes out. Straight back with the point of the elbow. Strike the ribs or solar plexus. Now a frontal view. Straight back. Use your sidestepping technique. Now the palm of the hand. Taisho. Striking under the jaw, breaking the jaw or the base of the neck of the attacker. Also used to rake the face, breaking the nose. Strike with the center of the pad of the hand. Drive your opponent back. Use your body weight to step in. Now remember the front kick I taught you. With the ball of the foot, keeping your toes curled back, strike up in between the legs, crushing the groin. Also strike with the instep, keeping the toes down. Either one is fine. Pull your toes down tightly when striking with the instep. Now hizugeri, or knee smash into the groin area. If the attacker grabs me very tightly, in close, I can drive up in between his legs with the knee. Very effective technique. Now watch carefully. This is a knee kick with the blade of the foot. Curl your toes back. Strike out with the outer edge of the foot, breaking the attacker's knee. These are all the fundamental striking techniques of Jiu-Jitsu.
膝が拳という具合で当てにやるのを練習ができます。
They are all you will need to have effective technique. Now we will begin with break falls. This is vital. For throwing techniques, you must know how to land to avoid injury. Follow along as my student, Mr. Hiroka, performs a very basic break fall. Make sure you're seated on a soft mat from a sitting position. Roll back, head up, slap with the hands, just as you're hitting to break the fall. Feet go straight up, slap hard. Never slam your head back, always keep it up. Now, on the balls of the feet, instead of seated, roll back from a slightly higher position, slap. As you're making contact. Again, follow along. On the balls of the feet, rolling down, buttocks, then your back, then slap. Without a proper break fall, you will knock the wind out of yourself and be vulnerable to your attacker. Now, standing, repeat the same technique. Squat down, roll, slap. Squat, roll, slap. Break falls are usually a three-step process. Down, buttocks, roll, slap. Always slap with the open hand, palm of the hand. Watch carefully from the side. Again, notice how he keeps his head from slamming on the ground. Now, the beginnings of the advanced rolling break fall. Start out slow from the seated position, roll to the side, slap as you make contact to break the fall. Keep your feet together. Do it in a smooth motion. You must learn all the angles of the break falling techniques because you never know which way you'll be thrown to the ground. Straight back, to the side, at an angle. It's unpredictable. Now, from the balls of the feet, again, going to a higher position, same technique. Roll to the side, 45 degrees. You're not rolling on the back, it's on the side and shoulder. Swing the break fall hand up, slam on contact. Now, from a standing position, step out and complete the technique. slow motion. Watch carefully. Swing your leg out, roll, buttocks, shoulder, slap. Same technique applies to the other side. Always work both sides equally, because again, you will never know what side you will be thrown on. So you must be very proficient in all angles. Add speed. As your confidence grows, be more aggressive. Now, falling forward as if being pushed from behind. Do not be afraid. Fall on the flats of the hands and forearms, the inside of the forearms. Start from a kneeling position. Hands up. Fall straight forward. Keep your chin up. Avoid making contact to the ground with your face. Your hands will break the fall completely. From a standing position now, fall straight down, break your fall. Do not be afraid. Now the rolling break fall. Keep your feet wide, left hand down. Follow along as my student performs. Avoid being slammed. You're going to roll with the throw. Keep your right hand underneath. Roll on the shoulder and slap, breaking the fall with the left hand. Again. Watch carefully. Roll, slap. You should end up on the side of your body. Keep the head tucked. Avoid making contact with your head to the ground. Now, the same technique with the other side of the body. Roll around on the shoulder, slap as you make contact. Roll with the punches, as they say. Roll with the throw. Do not try to stop your body in the middle of the technique. Keep your body flowing to avoid injury. Again, follow along. Add more speed and momentum. Push off and come to a standing position. Now watch the other side. Roll and up. This is the ideal technique, is to be up on your feet. This way you can fight or run. Now, the fundamental fighting techniques of Jiu-Jitsu. Coming from a fighting stance, your opponent throws a punch to your midsection, sidestep, grabbing, twisting the wrist, applying pressure. When the technique hurts, your opponent is to slap, so you know to let up on the technique. Quickly, adding the throw. Again in slow motion. You have an aggressive opponent. He attempts to punch or lunge with a knife, sidestep, grab, secure with both hands, flip. Technique completed. Now in this technique, sidestep to the other side. Reverse the roll and wrist lock, slamming your opponent to his back. Watch carefully. I block with the Shudo. I twist, I go underneath, dislocating his shoulder while I slam him to the ground. Now, full power. Slow motion. Your opponent is in a helpless position. Again, going to the outside, avoiding the punch. This time taking the wrist and hand and twisting it behind as I step around. Very, very painful technique. Adding the throw to the technique, make it twice as deadly. Now, a slight variation of this technique. When I have him down, I apply pressure to the elbow, twist his arm behind his back, using my knee as support, securing my opponent until help can come. Side step. Again, Shudo block, holding the wrist tightly and applying pressure to the elbow with the other hand. I take his arm behind his back with my knee. He's finished. Watch again. Your opponent is helpless. He must go to the ground or have his arm broken. Lock and hold. I block with my left as I sidestep and snap a punch to the nose. Following down on the elbow. Very quick movement. The punch to the nose will stun your opponent, water his eyes. He won't be able to see your next technique. Bring his wrist into your knee, your front knee, hard on the elbow. If he resists, you're in a position to break his arm. Like I showed you before, take behind, bring your outside knee inward, apply pressure. He's helpless. Sidestep, lock and grab. Under the attacker's arm, grabbing his collar. You have him. Now watch again. He's in a very vulnerable position, helpless. Now in this technique, come around. Instead of the arm lock, I throw my opponent. Again, like I showed you before, elbow lock behind the back. As you can see, there are many, many variations of jiu-jitsu techniques that can be applied to the same attack. The attack this time is again a midsection strike, sidestepping, shudo strike, and block. Coming under, holding his wrist with my right hand, I lock his elbow with my left, and then I will throw him. You should be training with a partner, following the master's techniques as he does them, so you can learn these techniques for your own benefit. And if you're an instructor, you can teach them to your students. Punch to the nose to stun your opponent. Again, pressure to the elbow and the throw this time. Now, in slow motion, now sidestepping the midsection punch, blocking with double shudos to the tricep and the wrist area, or striking to the elbow also. Bring his elbow high, applying pressure with the left hand as you hold his wrist with the right hand. Sidestep. Block, hold, push up, and you're in a position to throw your opponent. Full power. Again. Instead of the throw, take your opponent directly to the mat. Same blocking technique, but different counter. Using the palm heel to drive under your opponent's chin, sending him on his back. Sidestep, block the punch. Step in, drive with the palm of the hand. This will break your attacker's jaw, besides putting him on the ground. Quickly now. In slow motion. Very smooth, flowing movements. Same blocking, double shudos. Striking with a punch, uppercutting the jaw. Follow to the solar plexus. Simple, effective defensive techniques. 1, under the jaw. 2, knock the wind out of the opponent. The uppercut will send him on his back. Solar plexus. Now I will teach you your first throwing techniques. Basic hip throw. Your opponent has grabbed you by the lapels or shoulders. Step underneath, twist, grab his arm, bring him over your shoulder and over your hip at the same time. This is also a fundamental judo technique. Watch again. This time, one hand instead of two. I simply turn away from the grab and turn it into a hip throw. Someone's trying to push you. Side step. He's vulnerable. Slam him to the mat. Now, as an overhead punch comes, raise your arm to block. And again, we're applying the same throwing technique. This hip throw can be used against numerous attacks. Slow motion. Notice the technique involved. Now an attack from the rear. Drop under. Break his grip. Again. Fundamental hip throw. I've already showed you 5 different variations against all kinds of attacks. Break his grip by dropping under, grab, follow through. Now again, emphasizing the hip movement. Step around. This time, grab your opponent behind his back, throwing him over your right hip. very similar to the first technique.
それなりの場合と同じで、右足から丸く相手の右足先の前に
The step is very, very important to get the proper leverage.
から脇へ回して相手の体を支えるように
Let a hold of his collar, go behind his back with your hand,
同じ方向に体を入れます。
put your hip into his groin area,
肘を上に引く。下に引いては
and pull down hard as you throw your opponent. Now, applying the same technique from a front bear hug grip. As your opponent comes in to grab you around the waist, he's vulnerable. React quickly. Very important that step inward. As you step, it gets you in position to use your hip to throw your opponent. Without that initial step, you have no technique. Now stepping behind your opponent, hooking his leg, throwing him on his back. An excellent throwing technique to disable your attacker. Get far behind your opponent. Step behind, pull him hard on his back as you sweep his leg out from under him. Now, applying the technique against a punch attack. Strike him under the jaw with the open hand or the throat area. Hook your leg behind, always your inside leg on this technique. And hook it behind his knee. More quickly. Taking a fighting guard. With your opponent in this stance, as he attempts a lead punch, sidestep again, grabbing his clothing, and simply foot sweeping right by the ankle to send him on his back. Hold that lead hand for leverage. This way he cannot pull away. Grab tightly, foot sweep behind. This simple movement will knock him off balance, and then you have full control over your opponent. Your opponent has grabbed you. Step inward between his legs, hook him from the front and drive him back. Coming close. As you hook his leg, push him down. Watch again.
捨て身技を行います。この捨て身技は2通りありまして、真後ろに体を捨てて相手を投げる。
Now I will show you how to send your opponent over your back as he drives forward on you. It's very important to keep your head tucked up so you don't hit your own head as you're falling. Again, a frontal attack. You notice how I hooked underneath his elbows with my hand. I drive him up, and my movement will be to put my heel in his chest and flip him over my back. The push-up is very important. It weakens his stance immediately, leaves him vulnerable, foot into the stomach, and flip. In a real fighting situation, this would have to be done within 1 second. And your opponent must know how to break fall. Watch closely. I step forward, drive him up, drop down. My head never touches the mat, send him flying. Now, in a wrestling type situation where your opponent has you around the waist, you maneuver him into the proper throwing technique. I drop down and send him over my leg. Step by step. You can see he's totally off balance and he has nowhere to go but over. This time the technique again will be similar, but watch closely. As he attempts to grab me, I hook his arm under my armpit and apply pressure on his elbow. With the open hand, Nukite, I apply pressure under the armpit, which inflicts much pain. Again, dropping backwards on my back, I will throw him over my shoulder. Disabled into the armpit, I will drop and throw. Now, the entire technique applied. In slow motion, but yet at full speed. We truly hope you have enjoyed this exciting video by Master Sato. Other great videos by the EMOF masters include Kobujitsu by Master Sugino, 10th Dan. Okinawan Goju-Ryu Karate by Master Kai, the full, complete Okinawan system up to 3rd degree black belt. Iedo, the art of the samurai sword by Master Yamaguchi, 9th Dan. And don't forget, Master Sato's Jiu-Jitsu Volume 2, a continuation of these outstanding fighting techniques. Tape is a continuous series of fighting techniques. Remember, Jiu-Jitsu is an art never to be misused. You only use it if your life is in danger. In this tape, I will begin with choke holding techniques. These are very lethal and dangerous techniques, so use extreme caution when applying them to your opponent. The first is a rear choke. Watch carefully. With the hands open, I grip my opponent around the throat, locking in my palms. Go around, palm on palm, right hand on top, locking thumbs around each other. When I apply pressure, my shoulder pushes down on the back of the opponent's head, and I bring my head to the side of his ear. He is helpless. Your opponent must slap when he feels pressure. That is your signal to stop. It takes little pressure to choke or knock out your opponent. Now look at it from the side. My rear leg is up high on the ball of the foot. My right knee is very straight. Keep it high on the ball of the foot so you can get the proper leverage. I slide in, secure my lead knee behind my opponent's back. Choke. Quickly. Now the next technique is similar, but we grip the collar of the opponent's uniform. The same lethal effect will result. I come underneath his left arm, grabbing his lapel. The right hand comes around, also grabbing the same lapel. Grip tightly. Now, grab the other lapel with the left hand. Again, using your shoulder for leverage. Push down and pull back at the same time. Again, grab with the left, switch to the other lapel, apply. Now, another variation of that is to go underneath, apply, and raise his arm, choking behind his neck with the left hand. Look at it carefully from the side. Same foot position, getting tremendous leverage. Grab. Now, raise his left arm, bring your left hand behind his back, pull in and push back on his head with your hand. The choke is very, very deadly. Now, from another angle, Notice how I get in tight on my opponent. Coming around, disabling his arm, choking. Again, grab his collar, and instead of your shoulder applying pressure, it's your other hand. Quickly. Your opponent is defenseless. This is the next action. Your palms are facing down, right hand on top. Imagine grabbing your opponent's lapels, or alternate hands grabbing with palms up. From a standing position, you are in close fighting. With the left hand, grab the collar. With the right hand, grab. Now the action is to drive down with your elbows, pulling your opponent towards you, choking. As you can see, my assistant lost his wind on that technique with little pressure. So you can imagine when you're striking full power and squeezing as hard as you can. Watch again. You should be practicing with an opponent and being very cautious. Now, the left palm is up, right palm is down. Hands are crossed when you grab. With your opponent on the ground, you move in and apply the same technique. Grabbing the collar snugly. The other side, left hand palm up, right hand palm down. Lean over him with all your body weight, pushing your elbows into his throat. Grab, left hand, pull in and push out with the right hand. Notice the action. This is a virtually unescapable hold that I have my opponent in. Now reverse with the palms upward. This is a simple variation of the technique. Left hand inside, right hand inside, palms up. Flipping your opponent on top of you, or if he attempts an attack on top of you, pull in and push up with your shoulders. Watch my hands. It takes little effort. Either palms down or palms up, or palm up and palm down. Now, avoiding a frontal attack, catching his collars and pushing up on his throat. Watch closely. Underneath, grab the collars. Push up hard into the Adam's apple. Now, we are going to work jiu-jitsu techniques against a grab. Break away from his thumb as you pull back. Pull against the grip. Immediately follow with a shuto or open hand strike to his eyes. Quickly. Give a shout or ki on contact. Now, sidestep slightly, reverse his grip. Grab his wrist, push down, holding his hand with your other hand. This will subdue your opponent, and if he resists, you can easily break his wrist. Now your opponent grabs with two hands. Sidestep, weaken his stance. Break out against his thumb grips. Grab his arm and push down on his elbow as you bring him to the mat. The twisty motion will break his grip. Hold on to his outside arm. Draw him back. He will go to the ground. Now quickly. Watch carefully. You lead him to a position he cannot escape from. These similar techniques were taught in volume 1 of my video. They now become a little more complicated. Quickly. As you can see, he is made helpless. Now the attacker is grabbing both wrists with both of his hands. Open his arms, kick into the groin with the ball of your foot. Reverse the grip by holding his wrist and throw him over your hip. Again, fundamental hip throws were taught in video 1 of fundamental techniques. The kick to the groin will hurt him and stun him and leave him vulnerable for the hip throw. Watch. Now the same technique in slow motion. Full speed, but slow down so you can see each important movement. This attack could happen very easily on the street, in your neighborhood. A thug comes in, and you react quickly, sending him to the cement. Notice how I step in deep, get him way over my hip. If he didn't know how to fall properly, he could easily break his back. Now the attack is to the side. He grabs my wrist. With the arch of my hand, I push away, back knuckle his nose, break his nose. As you can see, not all jiu-jitsu techniques are grabbing and throwing techniques. We do apply fundamental karate strikes. So when attacked this way, someone grabs you, tries to pull you away, pull you into a car or an alleyway, do not panic. React by going to the gripping hand. Striking down, it's virtually impossible for him to hold on. Smash, break his nose, then escape. Now the opponent attempts to grab my collar. Again, a very common assault in a street situation. I break his nose quickly, take his wrist, break it down. A quick punch, immediately, turn his wrist around, at a 90-degree angle, bend it straight forward. Step back for leverage in your stance. Stances and footwork, again, were taught in Volume 1. Now in slow motion, this is the time to follow along with me. Even if you don't have an opponent, work the techniques in a mirror. Draw back, and all the pressure is on his wrist. Very, very painful. Now he grabs my arm, my sleeve. I draw to the side again to weaken his stance position. Come around with my right arm, secure his hand with my left, and lock down on his wrist. As you move, an attacker will have a tendency to tighten his grip, which is better for you. His first reaction will be to hold on, and that's his first mistake. If he was smart, he would just let go and pull away. Strengthen your stance position by stepping back to the side. Come around high with the right hand. Secure the other hand. Lock straight down. And he's finished. As you can see, Jiu-Jitsu uses the man's technique against himself. Now, a front bear hug technique. Grab under his arms, drive your knee into the groin. Finish by sending him to the ground with a hip throw. Hold, lift him up, drive the knee in, around his back, and over. Now, quickly. Slow motion. You see, I don't let him get a full tight grip on me. I break his grip before he can get a snug hold, and I finish him off. Now, from the rear, drop down, break his grip, elbow his solar plexus, grab his arm, and complete a hip throw. Elbow, ready, a hip throw. Now quickly. And again in slow motion. Get the arm high over your shoulder as you complete the throw. Never attempt this on an opponent who does not know how to break fall. Now look at it from the front. Step down and away. Drive back with a sharp elbow, striking the groin or solar plexus. Secure his arm. And then go through the motion of the throw. When practicing, you do not always have to throw your opponent. Concentrate on the proper technique. This is more important sometimes for beginners. Now the complete series. I break before he can get a strong grip. Break his ribs, solar plexus, or elbow to the groin. Either area is sufficient. And complete the throw. Always hold on to the throwing arm to secure your opponent. Now, as my opponent attempts a choke, I drop my chin to avoid him getting his arm around my Adam's apple, turn it into an arm lock. Watch again. Reverse his lock, send him to the mat, applying pressure to his elbow. Look at it from the side now. My chin drops. My left hand grabs the wrist of the choking arm. My right hand applies pressure to his elbow, breaking the grip. I drop down into the back of my opponent, always concentrating on his elbow, applying pressure to the elbow, inflicting great pain. push down, and he goes with the pressure, of course. If he resists, his arm will be broken immediately. Now I have full control over my opponent. I pull him face down into the mat. And then I hold him there until the police come or he's had enough. Quickly. Now I sidestep his kick to my groin and counter with a kick to his groin underneath his kicking leg. Very simple, very effective. The attacker attempts a choke. I drive hard underneath his elbows, drive my knee into his groin, send him flying back. When you strike his elbows, hit hard with your open palms. Follow with hizageri. Of course, knee techniques are used when you're in close, like this situation. And push him away. Now he attempts the chokehold that I taught you earlier. To break out, I drive down with my arms and throw him to the mat. You must react very quickly when being choked. You could be knocked out within seconds once the air is cut off. Because of his tight grip, it will enable me to flip him or throw him on his back. Watch. In slow motion, I drive hard down on his arms, twist my body, which sends him on his back. Now, another defensive technique. Same choke. Down. Instead of letting him go, I apply pressure to the elbow against my knee. There are many variations to one technique. An attack from the rear. He grabs my collar. I smoothly step around to the back, break his nose with a shudo, step behind, foot sweep him to the mat. This circular step away will loosen his grip, break his nose, and with your right leg come around and foot sweep him to the ground. Slow motion. Spin around. Left arm around, holding his arm, strike his nose and drive him down. And I have his arm in an elbow lock. Now, a rear bear hug attack under your arms. Step in back of your opponent, drive him off balance, and on his back. Leverage is everything in jiu-jitsu. Regardless of your strength, if you know how to move properly, you can easily send your opponent off balance. Now, quickly. This attack could very easily happen to you today. You could be standing, waiting for a bus, minding your own business. The assault comes. Without thinking, step behind your opponent. He'll be knocked off balance. His grip will weaken. Now you're in a position to run. defending against a knife and gun. Do not panic when a weapon is shown. If you are training properly, you can react positively. Now my opponent comes straight in, stabbing at my midsection. I sidestep, grab the knife hand, punch him in the nose, and lock his arm under my armpit, breaking his elbow, and then simply taking the knife away. Sidestep the attack. You never want to catch the full force of the weapon. It would be foolish to move straight back. Quickly. Notice my deep stance for strength. In slow motion. Time it properly, move, grab that knife hand, never let it go. Then he can swing back with it. Control the weapon, drive down hard, take the weapon. Now an overhead attack, watch carefully. Again, stepping to the side, away from the force, similar to the other technique. Punch the nose to stun your opponent. Bring him down with a wrist lock. And as always, take the weapon. Sidestep, punch. Bend the wrist down, taking him to the mat. Now, done quickly and realistically. Slow motion. A loud shout on the punch to give you added strength and power. And victory. Drop under a knife attack to your head, kick him in the groin, follow with a knee kick to the back of the knee. A defensive technique without even touching your opponent. Drop down, kick hard into the groin, break his leg. Now we have an attack with a gun. It says hands up. Slap the gun away. Turn it into a wrist lock. The gun is always pushed out of your line of fire. If it does go off, you're not in front of it. Remember that at all times. Take the gun away and hold him at bay. Slow motion. Your hands are up. With your hands up, it's actually an advantage to this technique. Take him down. You've broken his wrist and probably his back. Take the gun away. As he searches your pockets, with your right hand, break it from his wrist and strike him with the blunt end of the gun. You're striking to the back of his skull or spine. The action is to hit the wrist and grab the muzzle with the other hand and pull it away. Grab the muzzle, break it out, come back across the jaw, breaking the attacker's jaw. Now, quickly and realistically. Now, this dire situation can be turned around into a positive escape. Watch. Roll away. Lock the gun hand with your left arm. Strike him. Pull the gun away. Now, the tables have turned. Watch the action. It says hands up. Roll away before he can fire. Secure the weapon as always. Pull it away. Your opponent won't know what hit him. Of course, this has to be done in a second. Break the nose with the open hand Shudo strike, securing his wrist. If you apply enough pressure, of course, the wrist could easily break. Another technique. Spin the opposite way. Twist his wrist forward and back, and remove the weapon. Let's look at it slowly. Now, quickly. In slow motion. We truly hope you have enjoyed this exciting video by Master Sato, Jiu-Jitsu Techniques, Volume 2. Other Panther training videos by great Japanese masters include Kobujitsu by Master Sugino, 10th Dan, the complete Okinawan Goju-Ryu Karate System by Master Kai, 7th Dan, Iaido, Art of the Japanese Samurai Sword by Master Yamaguchi, 9th Dan. All these videos will really enhance your martial arts training. For a complete catalog, write Panther Productions,